American Parent is a new film that's premiering at the Reeling Film Festival on September 22nd. We have director Emily Railsbeck here to chat all about it. Set and filmed right here in Chicago. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for interviewing me.
This was the life of so many different people during the pandemic, and I feel like you told it so beautifully.
Oh, thank you so much.
Talk a little bit about the inspiration. Was there a particular moment that was like, okay, this needs to become a film, or this was something that got the wheels turning?
Yeah, so I actually gave birth 10 days after lockdown in Chicago. So uh I was expecting that parenthood would like be this certain way. And then COVID happened and it was like, well, it'll like maybe last for a month or like whatever. Like, I mean, I think no one at that time thought it would be as long as it was. Um, so it got to a point where I really wanted to create something and just the realities of like I have a baby and um the only way I can make a film right now is if she's in it because I just can't afford childcare and we'll have to like put a child wrangler in the budget and all these things like all of that I just had to set it around that logistically for me to be able to direct something and I think having a kid you suddenly realize like oh my gosh there's all these people walking around in the world that experience life so differently because they have children that they are like parenting that everything is just so much harder when you're a parent and you're like not only trying to achieve a career or a relationship but now there's like the majority of your time now goes to this other being so I'm still it's still a struggle always but yeah, that's kind of the impetus of it. And um, a lot of it is inspired by my experience. Um, I brought in my co-writer, Doreen Bartoni. And I brought in the motherhood aspects. She brought in the aspects that are unique to LGBTQ lesbian marriages. And so together we sort of combine some of our experiences with also some fiction. So um, that's kind of how we came about with the idea.
But you also think, especially during that time where maybe people were losing their jobs or people were cutting back on hours or you're a parent and money doesn't flow in the same way it does. And that's, of course, when it rains, it pours, the car breaks down, things need to be fixed in the apartment, the baby needs something, even, hand me downs or making your own toys versus buying something, brand new. I mean, that can even cause arguments between couples who really had no, history of arguing before.
Totally. And that's what I really wanted to show because I wanted it to seem like, well, this is also a critique on the gig economy for sure. So like people that are educated that, when times are easy economically, they have insurance, they have steady income, and they can get along. And then suddenly there's just pressures from like the gig work is not there for them. Yeah, I mean, all of those little things like the toys that they made and all that stuff like I don't know if non-parents would get that that's a reality but just certainly parents are like oh yeah like how much money are you spending on toys or how much money are you spending on new clothes for your kids so
But also, too, you think about that, if times are fine and there's not a pandemic going on, sure, instead of going out to a nice dinner, we'll spend extra money on these toys. But when you really have to pick and choose where this money is going to or how you're going to get yourself into debt, I mean, that's a big argument right there.
totally yes so there's like so much that goes into parenting and I don't think there's enough movies for parents I think like a lot of the films that talk about parenting issues are comedies that um just are like funny and goofy about it but there's so much that like once you become a parent you're like wow how did I never know that this was going to be my life so
What was, maybe some of the eye-opening things that you had that you were like, this definitely has to go into the movie or be a part of, because this was part of my experience.
yeah so a huge thing I was inspired by was this conversation that I had when because I was breastfeeding with the lactation consultant that I had where she was like there's always a challenge and it doesn't matter the gender of the parents but there's always a struggle of whoever's the breastfeeding parent and whoever's the non-breastfeeding parent because the breastfeeding parent gets this like extra boost of love from birth and so the milk is magical, and it's like if you're competing for that, the other parent always has to work harder to just make sure that the kid also feels love, so that was something that I think breastfeeding parents sometimes put on, like, feel like their partner doesn't do as much to like have equal things, because I think you're waking up every couple hours in the night and doing things like that. So that was something that was like super important. I think I wanted to tell that story, but it's subtle in there. So I think everyone could still understand just the challenge of feeding the baby and stuff. But I do think that there's just this like, you don't feel yourself when you're also breastfeeding all the time and you want to have a career. So that was something like personally that I felt was important to put in there.
And this is something not in the movie, and this is my own 2 cents. But I always tell all my guy friends when they ask me for parenting advice, and I said, if your spouse is breastfeeding or getting up, get up. You have to get up too, just because it's not your body that it's happening to. Because you need a diaper, you need a towel, you need to hold the baby because this other person can't go on 24 hours a day, and it's exhausting. And if you feel like you don't have your partner's support, you're going to start having cracks in your marriage. It's like, it's uncomfortable. It sucks to get up that many times, that many hours overnight, but you can't let her do it by herself. And that's
Yes.
the advice I tell every guy that I know, and everybody who ever asks me for advice, solicited or unsolicited. I always tell them, get up. It's going to make your relationship a lot stronger.
That is very true. And I think that, breastfeeding parents, like, you have the physical drain, you need to take in way more food to like give supply to the baby. And then, yeah, I think that resentment build, there's so many areas I think in parenting where resentment can build of like who is doing what. And I don't know if that is more of a female problem or not. I think I certainly know lots of women that have that struggle. So
But I think also too, with any relationship, the more things kind of, then it just builds on from there. This is turning into an Oprah episode. So like, it just builds on from there. But it gets to show you that like not being there from the beginning can just spiral out of control.
totally. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about filming in Chicago, some of the locations, some of the neighborhoods where you shot the movie.
Yeah, we were pretty much mostly in Irving Park, which is during COVID actually. We moved up to Irving Park because we were in a different apartment with like a python that was loose with like these college girls, and so we got to break our lease, which was amazing. So we like moved into a quieter neighborhood right before, like a month before the lockdown and a month before having a baby. So we were in this quiet neighborhood, and during the pandemic you just walk around the neighborhood a lot, so it's like I just scouted everything in my neighborhood for the most part. The one difference sort of is the location of the other professor that we're trying to show is like more upper class, and we use our producer's apartment in Hyde Park. Everything else though was like streets. We used some streets in Logan Square, some stuff by the lake, but yeah, the majority was in old Irving Park. So
and not to get off
and,
too not to
oh,
get
go
off
ahead.
topic and to get you into your next film, but moving out of an apartment because there's college girls with a loose python, that's the setup for a movie in itself.
I know, oh my gosh. They like wrote a note that was like, our python is loose, put a blanket under your door so your baby doesn't come into your baby's crib. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is not gonna happen. So yeah.
You could,
But
because
all of that to say, we shot the majority, like Bet and Elsie's apartment was my apartment. And because we were using my real baby, she had her like bedroom on set, so she could sleep, and we would use her in between naps. So our whole filming and scheduling, for anyone interested in scheduling a baby, it was all based around naps. So it's like we'd get something ready or we'd get lighting ready and we'd be like, well, now she's sleeping, so we have to go do something else. And so after the first day I actually realized that like having a baby on set is so hard, and I thought it would be easier because she's my kid. This is bad choice. But it's not easier. And so basically what I started to learn is that we would shoot a wide shot of the scene with the actors and the baby, and then we would let her crawl out of scene or walk out of scene. She was like 16 months at the time, so she'd like walk out of frame, and then we'd shoot the coverage where she's not in the frame anymore. So it was like, it was lucky that she was at a wiggly state, because it'd be like, cool, she just crawled over to some toys, and then we'd get that in a wide shot, and then we could do their coverage without her in it. But there were some times where she would like not, she wouldn't want to wear the same costume again, and we had to get the take. Or she, like one scene, she like showed up suddenly with a piece of bread in her mouth, and I was like, we like have to get this shot right now. So I just told the actress, like, can you just add in the line, where'd you get that bread from, which is like a line in the movie now. So there's just like things like that was like, we had to roll with whatever she did. We were just like, got to make it work. So it's
That
challenging.
is amazing, and I can't wait till she gets older and gets to watch the movie, and you
Yeah.
can tell her all these fun little stories.
Well, she's 3.5 now. She's seen it, and I mean, she hasn't sat through the whole thing, but she's seen clips of it, like when we were going through editing and stuff, and she thinks it's hilarious to see herself. So it's good.
Let's talk a little bit about Reeling Film Festival on September 22nd. You're doing a Q&A. Talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing at the screening.
Yeah, I mean, we're screening the film. It's our US premiere, so we're very excited. We're so happy that it's in Chicago. That feels like a lot of love from all of our audience and people there. And on the 22nd, we will have a Q&A afterwards with the filmmakers and crew, cast and crew that are present. And then afterwards, we're like having an after party. So if anyone comes, they can just talk to us and we'll tell them where the after party is. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Emily. ReelingFilmFest.org is where you can go ahead and get those tickets for American Parent or any of the films playing at the film festival. And much success with the movie. And congratulations on the U.S. premiere.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.